Hello and welcome to this week's edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update. I'm your host, Chris Greene, Director of Network Expansion for Avoya Travel. We appreciate your time and we have a very busy show for you today. Yesterday was ASTA's yearly legislative day, and Skip Fortier, Vice President of Network Expansion, will be joining us momentarily to give us the highlights, spotlight a few of the important bills that ASTA is focused on and what they hope to accomplish. Europe might be close to reopening to vaccinated American travelers. We'll have the latest on that and our eye on the industry segment. Gina Hoyt will be our special Meet the Team guest. Gina is the director of Avoya Mastermind, and we'll do a deep dive into the Mastermind program and why professional development is vital for agencies and agents of all skill levels and experience. I look forward to my discussion with Gina in just a few moments. We still have a few great promotions active for you to join the most elite host agency in the industry. We'll recap those at the end of our broadcast. And of course, make sure you have all the ways to reach out. And we hope you do, because we'd love the opportunity to discuss in detail the best-in-class resources offered by Avoya Travel for the members of the Avoya Travel Network. These resources have fueled Avoya Travel to being a multiple-year winner of the best host agency in the industry. And of course, we continue to celebrate Avoya Travel's Travel Advisor Appreciation Month, and we continue to bring gifts for the celebration. Each week in May, we're giving away a free informational guide designed to help you run an even better travel business. And only 1 week left. From how-tos to top tips, these guides will help you with marketing, planning, time management, professional development, and more. This week's guide features 5 ways to create a successful marketing plan. You can access your free guide by signing up today at our website, avoyanetwork.com. So let's kick off this week's edition of On Deck with Avoya, your weekly travel update with some industry insights. And we lead this week with a special recap from the American Society of Travel Agents, ASTA, and their annual legislative day that was held yesterday. Joining me for the recap is Avoya Travel's point person for the relationship with ASTA, Skip Fortier, Vice President of Network Expansion. Skip, thanks so much for your time today and for joining us on Deck with Avoya.
Thanks, Chris. Always great to be here.
Skip, before we discuss yesterday's legislative day, can you give me a quick recap of your involvement with ASTA and kind of like a big picture overview of the goals of that organization?
Sure. So ASTA is the National Trade Association for Travel Agencies, American Society of Travel Advisors. It is the premier agents association out there that really has our back in the industry. So their main goal out there is to go to Congress and lobby on the Hill for all of us in the industry. It's without an association out there having our back, we would have no voice up on the Hill. They offer not only the lobbying that they do for our industry, they have tremendous educational programs as well. So they're always out there fighting for us. And so it's an important association. And if you're not a member, every travel advisor should be a member of ASTA.
And one of their flagship events, right? Every year, ASTA holds its yearly legislative day, and you've been involved with that for several years now. This year, of course, a little bit different due to COVID. Capitol Hill still closed to visitors. Can you give me a recap of yesterday's special event?
Right. So Legislation Day has been going on for several years. It's something that ASTA is very proud of, and I've been very fortunate enough to represent Avoya Travel and attend this every year for several years now. So, with COVID still going on and closures on the Hill and Congress as far as letting public come up there and lobby, we were going back and forth of whether this should be a virtual event or whether we should get together. And we felt very strongly that we were going to get together and have this in Washington, D.C. And we had 175 travel professionals, vendors, and travel advisors, companies like Avoya Travel that are host agencies. We actually got together in Washington, D.C. for the last couple days, and we were able to meet with congressional and senatorial offices via Zoom, but we did it in delegations. So even though it was still a Zoom event, we had the chance to network together, to get to be together in a room. And so when the Zoom calls went on, they actually saw 12, 15, 20, depending on what our delegation size was. We had 40 states represented. And it was a great opportunity for us to go and highlight the 3 bills that we're really asking Congress to help and to make some action to help all of us make it through this difficult time.
Now, before our broadcast, you mentioned to me off camera that they're really focused on three main bills. Can you give me a recap of the three main bills that the ASTA organization is really focused on right now?
Sure. So the first one is the SAVE Act, which is something that's been out there already since it was appropriated last fall toward the end of 2020. And it was basically grants for venues out there that needed money to be able to restart concerts and different events and conventions out there, and to give them money to do that. Well, it's undersubscribed, so there's money out there, and it did not include travel agencies. Now, travel agencies, you think about it, and travel advisors, they're the ones that are getting people to these venues and selling the hotels and the reservations for air and selling tickets to venues. So we're saying here's an opportunity, since it's undersubscribed and there's extra money there. We're not asking the government to issue us any more dollars or to put any more funding into it. Is to take this extra money and use it so that travel agencies can get access to these grants. So that was number one. That's a big one. The second one is huge to us, and that's the Alaska Tourism Recovery Act. As we know, Alaska's been hit very, very hard through this with being closed. We feel that there's still an opportunity to salvage this year's Alaska season. And again, this costs the government no money. This actually, the bill passed unanimously in the Senate last Thursday, and it's now at the House. So we're trying to push the House leaders to co-sponsor and get this up for a vote. And basically what that would say is that the law that was established in 1886, which is the Passenger Vehicle Service Act, which prohibits foreign flagged vessels from sailing directly between U.S. ports, is to suspend that for this season, so that since Canada is not going to reopen their doors to ships until after February of next year, at least that's tentatively where they're saying, we'd like to be able to sail out of Seattle, Washington, and go right through to Alaska and back to Seattle without having to stop in a Canadian port. So this is very, very big. Of course, the governor of Alaska is pushing, and all the representatives from Alaska on both sides of the party are pushing this in the House to try to get this approved quickly. I had the opportunity to sit and talk with Vicki Freed from Royal Caribbean. She was attending this, representing Royal Caribbean, and they're saying if they could get this through Congress quickly before the end of May, they could salvage one or two ships to get to Alaska. And at this point, if every cruise line could get one or two ships out there sailing, it would be huge. The third one was, it's called the Hospitality and Commerce Job Recovery Act. And basically, again, this is not having to spend additional or ask for additional funds. It's actually offered as tax credit. So it would be able to create a tax credit for certain domestic travel expenses, up to $1,500 for many Americans. And so especially lower income Americans making under, I believe it's under $75,000 a year, they could have access to these tax credit to help them start traveling again, which is going to really help the overall U.S. economy. So these are the three bills that we really were pushing for, and we're hoping that we made some progress yesterday.
Skip, one last question before we wrap this segment up. What was the response like? Did you feel that the people from Congress were listening, they were engaged,
Sure.
and they learned anything yesterday?
So again, over a 4-hour period, we had 170 Zoom calls with congressional and senatorial staff. That was pretty amazing if you think about, first of all, how ASTA was able to pull that off. But every one that I was in, I'm in Virginia, I live in Virginia, the Virginia delegation, tremendous response from the people that we spoke with. They were all received the three, we call them asks. So the three asks that we had for these bills, they were prepared. They understood how they affect the travel industry. They all understand how the lack of travel is affecting their state, whether even if we're talking about Alaska and cruises, we're talking about advisors in Virginia, in my state, and all the 50 states that sell cruises are being affected. So we're talking about tax dollars for the states, for travel. We're talking about consumers and their constituencies that live in that they represent, wanting to be able to travel again. So we thought it was very successful. Now the next few days and then the weeks to come, we'll see how successful we are if we can get Congress moving on these 3 bills.
We'll keep our fingers crossed. Skip, thank you for joining us today on Deck with Avoya and for that great recap of ASTA's 2021 Legislative Day.
My pleasure. Thanks, Chris.
Moving forward with our eye on the industry segment and Europe's move towards welcoming back vaccinated American tourists. Earlier this week, the European Union moved in the direction of allowing fully vaccinated travelers from outside of the EU bloc to once again travel to Europe. Now, the vote is non-binding. It's only a recommendation, but given the fact that some European countries have already moved in that direction, like Greece, Iceland, Italy, and France, many believe this vote will hasten those decisions and that positive progress could be days and not weeks away. Quoting Steve Bourne, Chief Marketing Officer for the Globus family of brands, he said, "I think it's going to be almost like a Black Friday when the doors open, with vital commission coming for the travel agent sector soon after. Fingers crossed that the progress continues to be made." Disney Cruise Lines has announced their newest ship to join the fleet, and it should have your clients wishing on a star to be on board. The Disney Wish will be joining Disney Cruise Lines in the summer of 2022 with all the features Disney fans have grown to love, including lots of chances to interact with characters, storybook-inspired rooms, and the first ever Aqua Mouse, a 760-foot water slide featuring show scenes and special effects. The Wish will also have new themed restaurants, 6 pools, and a Toy Story themed splash pool for the little ones. The Disney Wish is open for booking now if the guest is a member with status in the Castaway Club and opens for everyone starting on May 27th. And finally, Parrot Heads the world over will be celebrating the news that a new Margaritaville resort will be opening in the Dominican Republic. Charisma Hotels and Resorts have announced the opening of its newest luxury yet laid-back all-inclusive resort in the Dominican Republic. Margaritaville Island Reserve Cap Cana will be launching in October of this year. Conveniently located just 15 minutes from the international airport, the resort will feature 228 suites, 40 ultra-luxe villas, 10 food and beverage locations, and the Gourmet Village, which will offer immersive music, entertainment, and unpretentious yet refined culinary and mixology offerings. And let's face it, if you've got clients that love that low-key Jimmy Buffett-inspired beach vibe, this is a no-brainer and one your clients are sure to love. As we transition into our next segment of this week's edition of On Deck with Avoya, it's time for our weekly Meet the Team feature. And this week, we're excited to feature Gina Hoyt, Director of Avoya Mastermind. Avoya Travel's Mastermind program is the top professional development program offered by any host agency. And when you combine amazing professional development with best-in-class marketing, technology support, and industry relationships, you can easily see why Avoya Travel is considered the elite host agency in leisure travel. And all you have to do to find out more is reach out and start the conversation. Our network expansion specialist would be happy to provide a full overview, answer your questions, set up a one-on-one demonstration of our agent power technology, and help to get you qualified for one of our special affiliation promotions. Go to avoyanetwork.com today and start the process. So let's welcome our Meet the Team featured guest, Gina Hoyt, Director of Avoya Mastermind. And Gina, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hi, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Gina, let's start with some early travel memories. What's the first amazing trip that you remember, and why does that trip stand out to you so much?
So I was probably about 7 or 8, and it was Disneyland. I grew up in North Idaho. We loaded into my family's Ford Country Squire station wagon and hit the road. And I don't National Lampoon's Vacation. I don't know if that is the first trip that I remember, and it was so exciting. We got to see the Oregon coast, the redwood forests, San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge, the trolleys, Lombard Street, and of course Disney and Mickey, Minnie, and Goofy and Cinderella. I guess I could say that very vacation is really what struck my passion for travel and ignited my journey along the way. And what it helped me do is see the world as this great big candy store, and I wanted to taste it all.
You guys didn't have grandma strapped to the top though, right?
No, we didn't. But we did have the back seat laid down and made out to a bed. And, my brother and I fought and played games the whole way.
That kind of leads me into my next question, Gina. What made you want to become a travel professional, and ultimately what led you to Avoya Travel?
So, great question. I think from, that young age, travel really became a passion. I didn't envision myself as selling travel. Actually, my desire and my dream was to become a flight attendant. But when it came time for me to, start thinking about a career, I was a mom, I had small kids at home, and really leaving my kids wasn't an option for me, right? I wasn't something I wasn't willing to do. So I kind of started to research and figure out, okay, how could I be of service to people and yet get into this amazing industry? And that's really where I landed on helping people plan their vacations. And what I did is there was a local agency in the community that I lived in, a travel agency that was actually hiring. I went and interviewed with them. I wasn't extremely pleased with their payment commission structure. And so I thought, yeah, that's just not going to work. And they offered me a job, and I told them I'd think about it. I came home and I asked, and my husband's like, what are you going to do? I said, open my own agency. And he just kind of looked at me baffled, like, what are you talking about? Remember, I knew nothing about this industry. I didn't know how travel agents got paid. I didn't know industry acronyms. ARC, ARC, IATA, CLIA. What do those mean? I had no idea. So there were no travel agency schools, right, or courses in any of the local colleges. The internet had really just started. It was kind of working through its toddler phase, kind of trying to master that crawl, the internet in and of itself. But I really began researching. Yahoo, at that time, Yahoo was a big search engine, Google, MSN, and I started researching. I started reading anything I could read. There were many nights I was up all night. My husband's like, you've got kids to take care of. Are you coming to bed? And I just started researching, and I figured it out, and I learned, and I started my own agency, and that's really, how this whole thing started. Coming to Avoya was a whole nother journey, and I'll share about that here in a little bit.
Now, we've been fortunate, Gina, in that we've had a chance to feature a couple of the other members of the Mastermind program, Tammy Ritchie, Danny DeBrot. Tell me a little bit about your specific role as the director of Avoya Mastermind and how that impacts the members of the Avoya Travel Network.
Sure, thanks. So, really, the Mastermind program overall has many focuses. We all from new to industry, new to network, to some of our top independent agencies, kind of working with them and just in providing support. My role as director is I kind of oversee all of the different programs, and then as well as I work with some of the top agencies in our network. Depending on an agency owner's desire and where our team is, right? Talking about the team overall in terms of who we support, and it's optional program, doesn't cost anything. So, but they do have to opt in, the agency owner. So depending on their desire, for us, it's all about sharing suggested best practices. Sometimes it's just getting back to the basics, strategizing, creating efficiencies and streamlining business systems, things to help them move along and forward, and help them move that needle, whatever it is they desire.
One of the reasons I love focusing on the Avoya Mastermind program is that it just flat out gets results. Why do you think those that participate in the Avoya Mastermind program see the kind of growth in their agencies that they normally do?
It's a great question. And I think that, I know we all have our own ideas, but I think those who opt in and participate in our program are those who they're open to growth, right? They're open, they have the willingness to learn something new. It may not always be comfortable, and it may not always be what they want to hear, but they have that open-mindedness and that willingness to kind of move forward, and when they try it, and it's so fun, right? You watch them try something new, a new strategy or new something, and they succeed, and they watch others succeed, and that usually wins that struggle of not wanting to do it because it's not my idea. And then also, just kind of helping them move it really helps that desire for them to grow. And I love watching that. I love seeing them.
It sounds almost like a football game, right? The goal is to continue to move the ball forward each play towards the goal line, with the big payoff coming after you put all the plays together.
Absolutely, 100%. And again, you don't know what you don't know, right? And so our team is here to kind of help facilitate that. It will kind of help facilitate some of those things that you may not know that you don't know, but we kind of try and surface that stuff to light and kind of help walk them through that.
Gina Hoyt, Director of Avoya Mastermind, is our featured guest today on our Meet the Team guest on Deck with Avoya. Gina, we've already touched base a little bit on your path to working with Avoya Travel, but take me back to when you started to think about that, when you were looking for a host and the questions that you might have had in your mind that were on your list that were important. Tell me a little bit about that process, how ultimately you ended up choosing Avoya Travel.
Sure. Thanks for asking. So, keep in mind, prior to coming to Avoya, I had been in the industry for years. So I had affiliated with several different hosts over the years. I was at a conference and I heard somebody one of the presenters talking about Avoya Travel. Never heard of them. I'm like, who are they? And so for me, and I listened, right? I was listening. They were talking about live leads. They were talking about support. They were talking, and I was in those two things. Those are the top two things that really piqued my interest. Live leads being the number one. Because remember, trying to generate business, it's like I was a great seller. Marketing wasn't my top suit, right? So it's like trying to find a balance there. And so if I could find somebody who could do that for me. So that was really number one, that marketing, that live leads piece. And that's really what pushed me in that direction in terms of affiliating. I'd love to say that after I initially affiliated that I found a tremendous amount of success. I don't want to share my whole story. That wasn't necessarily my journey or my story, but the support that Avoya offered in terms of the Mastermind program. Yes, I as an agency owner, I was part of Mastermind. And I did that because and Tammy and I laugh about it still today in regards to, because she had called and asked me if I wanted to participate. I told her, no, thank you. I know how to sell. I've been doing it for years. Thank you. I quickly stuck my tail between my legs and went back and said, okay, maybe I might need some help in this arena, but what for me is that support is what ultimately led me in a direction that I found a tremendous amount of success. And I think those two things, if you're considering even affiliating with Avoya, for me, those were my two main things. And I found it here. So
yeah, you and I have a similar story in the fact that we're both former affiliates in the Avoya Travel Network before we became employees of Avoya Travel, and that's what resonated for me too. Was that Mastermind program, and just hearing it, sometimes it just takes phrasing things slightly different for that light bulb to go on and have that, oh my goodness moment. And the Mastermind program certainly had that for me. Gina, I wanted to congratulate you and all the Avoya staff that were involved in our recent land forum. Wow, what a huge success. And I wanted to ask you, why do you think those kind of network events are so vital for an agent to participate in? And then kind of as a two-part question, any upcoming Mastermind events that you want to plug while you're here on our program?
Oh, thanks, Chris. So, why are those events important? Networking. Just being able to network with not only other agency owners within the network, because remember, we all work from home, right? Our agency owners are like these islands, but when we have those events, we get to come together, we get to meet each other, we get to talk about things. So, networking with agency owners, suppliers, huge, and some Avoya staff, but being able to make those connections with our suppliers is just absolutely huge. And of course, the continuing professional development. One thing about our industry, you can never know it all, right?
For sure. Absolutely.
And our upcoming plans, we're talking, we do have nothing that we have set in stone or really want to announce at this point. So just be sure to keep a lookout.
Absolutely. And we'll make sure we plug those two once they become official. Gina, one last question before we switch over and talk about you, the person outside of your role here at Avoya Travel. But as the director of Avoya Mastermind, Do you feel a sense of excitement for the future from our current affiliates? And do you feel this momentum starting to build for what we all hope is just a multiple year amazing run in leisure travel?
It's so exciting. Yes, I think we all can feel it. Staff, suppliers, and independent agency owners alike. It is absolutely exciting. The travel is beginning to make a comeback. The opportunity has really never been greater, and people need and want to travel. And watching our agency owners get back in the game, right, starting to book travel and watching their excitement as business continues to grow, even though, yes, not everything is open, but people, as the vaccinations are rolling out, people have this desire. It's like they're getting more comfortable and they're wanting to make those decisions. And watching that happen, it's truly exciting.
And I've been hearing from agents that they're excited because their clients are taking that 2020 travel budget that they didn't get to use, and they're rolling that over into their 2021 and sometimes rolling 2 years into 2022 and really kind of blowing the doors out, which I think is pretty amazing.
They're spending more, right, per travel, or they're taking both budgets for both years and spending and going twice versus just one big trip. So it's really just watching it all unfold is truly exciting.
It very much is exciting. As we transition in our interview, Gina, from you, the director of Avoya Mastermind, to you, just the person, what kind of things outside of work do you like to do for fun? You're a real outdoor person, right?
I am. I love spending time with my family, camping, riding motorcycles, both road bikes, dirt bikes, and ATVs. I do have my own Kawasaki Vulcan, reading and volunteering, working with other women in our community. Growing up here in North Idaho, home of the scenic mountain landscapes, lakes, miles of protected wilderness, and a tremendous amount of outdoor recreation areas. Hiking, swimming, motorcycle, all of those things were just part of life for me. And I truly still love to do it today.
And you touch base on the fact that you're a reader, a very avid reader, but there's a certain genre of book, right? We had it on your slide in your fun facts. Tell me a little bit about the genre of books you love to read and how in the world you came to be focused on that.
I know, right? Paranormal fantasy. Who does that, right? Think fairies, werewolves, vampires. I know. I don't know. How does it start? For me, I had a girlfriend who was reading a book, and I kind of looked. I'm like, "What are you reading? Like, you're crazy. What are you reading?" And I thought, well, maybe I'll try that book. So I looked into it, and it sucked me in, and I've never been able to let go of it. For me, I think it's really about. It's an escape from everything real life, right? I mean, I know that there's not a werewolf out there. However, when I'm reading, there are wolves where I live, but we just don't have any werewolves. But, but when I'm reading, it's really that escape from real life. If I've had a rough day, or maybe I want to focus on something besides whatever's going on in life right here, right now, diving into a book really provides that escape for me and allows my imagination to run wild. I still have that imagination of a child, so it really allows that. And I think sometimes for me with that whole paranormal fantasy, one of the challenges I might have is turning that imagination off, right? So like when I'm at home alone, if I'm at 10 o'clock at night, remember, I live in the middle of the woods and I hear something outside and my husband's not home or nobody's here with me. I'm like, ah! So, so there's a drawback to that, but I love it.
What about favorite trips that you've had the chance in your career to be on, and anything post-COVID that you're really looking forward to trip-wise?
Oh, I think my favorite trip was Castles Along the Rhine. It was a river cruise that my husband and I did. Just that intimate small ship experience was truly second to none. We just loved the history and being a part of all of that. It was truly fascinating. My husband had served time in Germany in the service. And so being able to go back while we were, when we were there, we were able to go to some different locations that he had been to, and we were able to walk through that, and he was able to share those experiences with me. One quick thing about that whole river cruise, one of his things that he wanted to do when we were in Europe, he's like, I want to go eat in a guest house again, because he had done that when he was in the service. And it was true. We found one in Regensburg, Germany, and a little house, a little inn with a few tables. The owner didn't speak English. I didn't speak German. It was, my husband had very broken German from when he was there. He remembered it. It was a great experience. So if you ever have that opportunity, I would definitely encourage you to do so. In terms of wish list, I would have to say either a Southeast Asia, Vietnam, Cambodia river cruise. Just being able to experience and see and be a part of that history, or an African safari wildlife, again, outdoors, would be amazing.
Yep, both on my wish list too. They would be absolutely amazing experiences. Gina, one last question before we let you go. We all know that agency owners and travel agents have to wear a lot of hats in order to be successful. What kind of advice would you offer a professional who's trying to figure out the whole time management game and trying to figure out just how much time they should devote to future professional development?
So I think what I want to touch on here is maybe not, I know you asked me a specific question, Chris.
Okay.
I'm gonna kind of deter it a little bit. So, maybe not necessarily about time management, but being that consummate professional, right? Work from a place of honesty and service to build the relationships and trust with clients. People buy from people they trust, right? Specialize. I know for, becoming that true brand specialist, knowledge breeds confidence in people. Again, consumers like to buy from people they have relationships with and they trust. And create, and this is back to the time management, right? So create a plan and a system and work it, no matter what, right? Just find what works, work it, work smarter, not harder. And as your business grows, you'll find ways to be more efficient. With those plans and those systems, you'll be able to find ways to be more efficient with your time.
Makes total sense. I always tell people that when you work for yourself, you have to hold yourself, your employee, to the same standard that you would hold anybody else that you considered an employee.
Absolutely. I remember when I was working for myself and I had my agency, my mom would come, do you think your boss would let you to come to lunch today? And I'm like, probably not today, Mom. We'll have to do it another, maybe Saturday or something, So exactly. I had to hold myself to those very same standards.
Gina Hoyt, everyone, Director of Avoya Mastermind. Gina, thank you so much for that great discussion and for being our Meet the Team guest this week on Deck with Avoya.
Thank you, Chris. It was a pleasure to be here.
Next week, make sure you join us as we introduce you to Jake Saunders, Senior Project Engineer with Avoya Travel. Jake and I will be discussing his role with the company and touching base on important things like technology, business intelligence, and a whole lot more. It should be a fantastic discussion worthy of your time. All right, let's quickly talk promotions before we wrap up today's show. Still 2 promotions active out there for the high-end agents that before COVID would have been doing about $500,000 a year in gross sales or more. When COVID hit, they probably had future cruise and future tour credits. They're getting the phones to ring now, but they might be looking for a better home. If that's you, please reach out to us. We have a fantastic promotion where we can waive the $495 affiliation fee. My team would be more than happy to get you qualified. And if you're that agent looking to take your business to the next level, and our resources, they definitely can help you do that. If you're a real dedicated professional, we have a promotion for you as well. We're waiving your first renewal fee. So you pay the normal affiliation fee at the end of the initial 6 months. If both partners want to continue, then we're going to waive that renewal fee. And again, my team can get you qualified. And you can explore with Avoya Travel with complete flexibility, nothing exclusive in our agreement, no long-term contracts, no exclusive agreement. And you can contact us for eligibility. And remember, don't delay your success. This promotion won't last forever. How do you get a hold of us? Again, pretty easy stuff. You can leave us a message here on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, you can reach out to me by email, chris.greene@avoyatravel.com. Call our toll-free number, 1-855-884-1458, or reach out to us on our website at avoyanetwork.com. My team, again, the network expansion specialist, would be more than happy to have that conversation and answer your questions, get you a demonstration, whatever it takes to make you comfortable with the decision that hopefully you're considering making. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks to Skip Fortier for joining us with the Legislative Day recap. Thank you to Gina Hoyt for being our special Meet the Team guest. I hope you have a fantastic week. Big thanks to Marissa Smith, who produces our segment in the background. We'll talk to you next Thursday right here at this exact same time. Have a wonderful week, everyone.